All right, we're here at my outdoor worm bin, and the last time we were in here, we harvested this bin. And as you can probably tell, we've got quite a bit of space from the top of the surface to the top of the bin. Now, it's still summertime in Florida, so you can see I've been having to use my frozen water bottles. And last time we were in here, when we harvested, we put the castings on top, and we kind of used the agitation method to get the worms out of it. And there's a little bit of castings that fell down, and all those worms did as well. So one of the things I want to check on is see if this worm bin is kind of in layers, because we had fed it a couple days before we harvested to try and get the worms to come up so there wouldn't be as many in the harvest. And then after we fed it, we put a lot of bedding. So we want to kind of dig through here and see how everything is doing in it. And these banana peels I'd put up here because we were trying to get rid of some mites. And as you can see, it's done a pretty good job, because last time we got a lot of mites and now there's not so many. So those are just go in our feeding zone. But let's grab from the side here and just kind of turn over, and we've got a lot of the bedding that doesn't look like it's been touched, but then we've got a lot of worms. So this is going to be real interesting, because we're going to want to mix it up very well. And this is kind of that cross hash bedding that my son had given me, and it is now really moist. It went in there dry. So this bin is doing a real good job of absorbing all the food moisture that we had put in here. We make sure we freeze it first. And this, I think, was a nectarine. Yep, right there. It's either a nectarine seed or a peach seed, and the worms seem to like to go right through it. Now, in addition to this peach or nectarine that we put in there, we had put in some strawberries, some celery and spinach, a big old head of lettuce, a whole peach, which I think that was it, some banana peels, orange peels, peppers, avocado shells, pitted olives that don't have the pits in them. I made that mistake. And then some big cantaloupe pieces. And for our bedding, we had some whole cardboard tubes, some egg cartons, some of this fancy shredded, I don't know, it's like it's sliced, but then it's not quite sliced through. We put in some of that bedding, as well as some paper towels. So what I'm not seeing is those paper towels. So I'm kind of liking that little situation where I can put the paper towels over the top and then put the food on. So we're going to continue to do that. But look at all this food and bedding and all this kind of good stuff. So what we're going to do is mix this up really good, because I think what happened was we were just kind of in layers, almost like a multi-layered cake with frosting in between. We just need to kind of mix things up. So let me go ahead and do that. So as I'm digging down pretty deep, I am seeing some really good castings. So they are really attacking it pretty well as it kind of goes down, which I'm pretty happy. So that is good. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing is, or feeling I should say, is that it's kind of cooler in the middle and a little warmer on the edges. And that makes sense because the sun, it doesn't quite hit it because I have a blind here, but it definitely heats it up. This is really looking good. We are seeing some leftover food, and I've been in here a lot earlier than I was previously. I was taking sometimes up to 20 days to get in here, and I think our all-time record of 30 something days, but it has only been 12 days since we fed them last and 10 days since we were in here. So things are going to kind of look more like this in the future, our feedings anyway, because what I'm trying to do is harvest every 30 days. And if I harvest every 30 days, I probably need to feed them 3 times in between that, just to get as much bulk in here in order to get that harvest going. And here's an avocado shell and still some of the avocado flesh in there. So avocado flesh and shells, definitely a slow food. And here's the pit. Worms in there looking to get to it, but definitely one of your slower foods. So let me mix it up again and kind of set us up for our feeding. So I'm going to start in with just some bedding, and this is just some paper towels, soiled paper towels. We'll put them in a little container to save them so we can put them in our worm bins. Seems like such a waste to put them in the trash. So we'll start with that. And then I have got a fantastic shredder that is a 12-sheet crosscut micro shredder, and it just makes these fantastic shreds for me. Super small, and they're kind of bendy too, so it just gives a lot of depth. A lot of air can get through. In fact, I've got affiliate links if you're interested in looking at that shredder. They're in my pinned comments and description, but we'll kind of leave a little layer of bedding right here to put the food on. And actually, I want more bedding than that. So there we go. Got a really good layer of bedding to put the food on. And this is going in dry. Normally, you probably want to dampen your bedding if you got a smaller worm bin and you're not feeding so much food. But I think I probably have somewhere around 6,000 worms in here at least. So they're going to be able to get up and attack all this food that I'm going to put in. And I really need to get all this bedding wet. So we'll start with this. And this is just some lettuce stock stalks, looks like some banana peels, and we've got an apple core tomato. But what we're gonna do is spread out this feeding, and that way it doesn't heat up so much. Here's even more food for them. Looks like we've got some pineapple pieces and lots of watermelon, both of those super fast foods. So we'll spread those out. We've got a whole apple here that everything is previously frozen. This has not thawed out too much, and I just squirted the executive producer. Sorry about that, Autumn. We'll spread that out. We've got some mushrooms, so that'll be interested to see whether or not they are fast or slow foods. Some onion, which tends to be slow food, and an apple. Apples in general are pretty slow foods. Sometimes if you cut them up really small, they become fast foods. I guess really any food that you cut up super small can become a fast food. And this is like a fig bar. So very interesting there to see how much they go for that. But yeah, so spreading it out will probably help it not heat up. And I do not want to do that. One of the other things you can do if you're worried about heat is maybe feed on one side. That way the worms can flee over to the other side. But the problem with that is you kind of generate heat by putting everything on one side. So I like to spread it out. It's a really deep bin. They can flee down if they need to. So this is looking really good. Hope this apple out a little bit right there. It is a little bit more thawed out than that other one. So there we go. Just gonna clean my hands off a little bit with these paper towels, rip them up, and then we're gonna put some, you know what? I'm kind of doing this backwards, but I did need to clean them off. So we're gonna do amendments, and then I'll spread this out and put on more bedding. So here we go with our worm chow. This is just expired grains, oats, that kind of thing that I put in here, and then I just blended up with my Magic Bullet blender, and it does a fantastic job of pulverizing both the worm chow and the eggshells for me. And then we just spread it around, and the worms treat it as food and they eat it up. So really good. Next we'll go in with some of our used coffee grounds, and I'll just kind of spread that out. Again, don't want to put this all in one big pile just because we don't want things to heat up, and something that is so finely shredded and full of nitrogen like this can certainly heat up. In fact, I use coffee grounds to heat up my regular compost. Now we'll go in with some eggshell grit, and again, that Magic Bullet blender really does a great job of kind of crushing and getting the fine particles that you see here for the eggshells so that the worms can ingest it, and then they use it in their gizzards to kind of make all the food that they eat smaller. So I like to put some eggshell grit in with every feeding, and it's fantastic for my garden as well. All right, now we're ready for some of the paper towels here, and then we're gonna put in some more of that shredded cardboard. Again, I can't tell you how much I love that 12 sheet crosscut shredder. I've had it for over 4 years now, and I've been shredding cardboard for almost 3 in it, and it is just working like a charm. All right, so in goes some more shredded cardboard. Just spread that out all over so we're burying the food, and it looks like we need more. And every bit of this bedding that we have in here, the worms are also going to ingest. So you can never put in too much bedding, really. In fact, that's probably what people do the least of, and they probably need to do the most of, because it's very easy to overfeed your bin with food scraps. And one of the ways you can kind of mitigate that is by putting in more bedding. So always put in more bedding than you think you might need. Next, what I'm going to try out is I'm going to put down these paper towels like this. Because I'm using those frozen water bottles in order to cool things down, sometimes when I put them on there and the worms come up and they like to go underneath them, or there's some castings on them, they just kind of get dirty. So I'm going to see if I can prevent that by having this dry layer and then having these paper towels on top, and that way I can put the frozen water bottles right on top, and then they will still absorb the heat and I won't get them as messy. So let's go ahead and put those frozen water bottles back on. And what I've been doing is coming in here every morning and putting them on, and by the mid-afternoon they're completely melted, but they're still cool. So I've just been having to do it once a day, whereas in the middle of summer I was doing it twice a day. So I got to tell you, I am really loving this urban worm bag, and if it gives me 15 pounds of castings every 30 days, we're talking what, 180 pounds of castings a year? That is just going to be fantastic for my garden. So let's hope that if I keep giving big feedings, the worms will be able to take care of it, and I'll get some great harvests 30 days from now. If I don't, and there's more bedding and stuff like that in the harvest, then we'll back off. But I've got big plans for this. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing fantastic. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.